Yeah, here we are again for another week of State of Mind. And this time we are joined by Sarah Knox, who is not only my mentor, my spiritual mentor, but she's helped guide me through many different aspects of what's happening and being able to guide me from a mental point of view, from an emotional and spiritual point of view. There's so many different aspects that we can go through, that she's helped guide me through certain things that I needed at that point in time. And Sarah wants to really jump into the shadow aspect of spirituality, where we are jumping into the unconscious, even in that unconscious part of our minds, as well as things that we need to have, or things that we've had in our past that we need to work on. Sarah, why are you so interested in the shadow aspect, the shadow work that people need to go through? Oh,
Lost the sound?
lost the sound? Oh, she's gone into your network.
You've gone into your network?
Her network.
What do you...
I think we've had a little bit of a here we go. Stay tuned, guys. We're just we're trying. She might. Can you hear us? No.
Oh, I can't hear anything.
I can't change parts of it, but let's see if this helps. Does that help? No. You might have to turn video off.
That was a bit odd. We were just having a conversation just before going live.
Oh, here we go. No, we can't. Oh no. Anyway. Oh, there we go. Your network's improved all of a sudden.
Can we hear you now? No.
Log out and log back in.
Might have to message.
You need a message? Message. Okay, stay tuned. You might have to like hop out and then come back in. Now we're playing charades. Because she's on her mobile. Let me just quickly send her a message.
We're working in the shadows. Message. Does this shadow work? Got the message?
I think so.
Okay.
There we go. So anyway, it's all about the shadow work, and the shadow work is quite an interesting part of what a lot of people would go through, because these are deep-seated conscious or things that we put in. Oh, she's back.
Me now.
Oh, you're back.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh no, yes. Yes, she's back. All right, back to you in the case of it's all about that shadow aspect, and why do you want to work so much with the shadow aspect?
Yeah, I guess for me, the shadow aspect is something that has been a prevalent thing in my life, and it's something that I am not shy of. I think sometimes people kind of look at maybe this shadow aspect as being something negative or something hidden or something that they wouldn't want to reveal to other people. I think for me in my life, it's been something that's almost like a friend that I like to hang out with sometimes. And I guess for me, what I love with the idea of the shadow is working with young people and helping them to identify what's going on for them on that level. The shadow aspect often does become more prevalent during our teenage years. And in my time, that was when, people started to be, interested in looking like a goth or, listening to heavy metal or that sort of thing. It's really that expression of the shadow self. Like more recently, it's more that kind of emo type personality or expression that comes through that can often be this shadow self being expressed as well. I guess I'll just sort of explain what the shadow is and what it looks like, and how to identify whether you have experienced your shadow or or whether you're currently going through it as well. So interestingly, what happens when we take it back and have a look when we're a child from about the age of 5 and we go to school, we are conditioned to behave in a certain way. So there are things that we're allowed to express and there are things that we're not allowed to express. And it's all about really essentially making other people more comfortable. So, we're told this as it is our behavior. Prior to that, we're just natural, intuitive beings who will express and do things in the way that we feel. So if we feel angry about something, then you're going to know about that. And if we feel sad about something, you're going to know about that. And we can go from one emotion to another super quick. But as we go to school,
I think we've lost you again. We've lost you again.
Sarah,
we've lost you again, Sarah.
We've lost your...
We've lost you again because the internet probably drops in and out where you are. So you might have to hop back in and out. But
this is a totally new concept to me. I mean, you mentioned it the other day, and I'm like, this is just another what?
It's just enough. Yep. No. Oh no. We've lost sound again. Could you hear us? Is that yes? No.
I can't hear you.
Okay, so you might need to hop out and then hop back in.
So how have you been finding the shadow work, Sandro? How did you? So when did it come to you through Sarah? Did she?
You know how you told me to get in touch with a few different people. It all kind of started when I spoke with Ian and spoke with a lot of other people and started speaking to people who've gone through these issues. We still can't hear you, but you can probably hear us. I'm hoping perhaps a restart of it, or the app or the web browser might need to restart. But when I was going through many different things, it made me sort of revert back to myself and try to get an idea about what's happening to me. And there's a lot of other people that I've spoken with that's gone through it, and it was more like my own intuition was to speak to other people that I can. and the first point of call was what interest it was, whatever was calling me, and the point of interest was to seek out someone like Sarah. And once I spoke to Sarah, because once I spoke with Sarah, I started getting an idea of exactly what's happening to me, because she's already gone through it herself. She's got a great understanding of other people and other things that do exist that we suppress, because we kind of have forgotten, or don't even want to realize that these things do exist. Can you hear us? Yes. Can you say something, Sarah?
I can't hear you.
Oh, yes.
Oh, no, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Go for it.
Okay. I'll have a chat.
Sandro was just giving a bit of a background into how he came about the shadow work.
Yeah, so as a child, all of these emotions start to be suppressed within us. And at some point in our lives, we need to go through a process where we allow ourselves to acknowledge these emotions and actually express these emotions. So things can trigger that for us. It could be like the death of body. It could be, a relationship breakdown. It could be the stress of life, and in teenage years, even just like doing your HSC and things like that. Further in life, it can be all sorts of things that happen. But basically, in those teenage years, usually there is a trigger for this to start to happen. Actually, sometimes it can be sort of ill health as well. So something can go on in a physical way with your health that also trigger this. And what it is, it's this process of allowing these emotions to come to the surface and really, I guess, in a way, bring those emotions to the light. And really seeing them as part of ourselves. I think it's important to understand as a spiritual being that we're able to express all emotions. And it's not about just sort of projecting that love and light and being rainbows and unicorns. It's really about saying, well, when I feel angry about something, I can express that anger, rather than saying, but I'm not an angry person. Everybody can, or everybody should be able to feel different emotions and acknowledge those different emotions within ourselves without feeling like we need to filter, or feeling like there's any sort of shame around certain emotions. So it's a bit of a ride. People can go into a darker space, and hence the shadow, because essentially the shadow is all these things that we don't want to show on the outside. So it can be our fears, it can be our self-doubt, it can be, the aspects of self that we don't like, that we wish we weren't. It can be, heavier thoughts that we sort of feel like nobody else would have those kind of thoughts. It can be our trauma, our pain, so many things linked into this shadow aspect. So really what it is, it's this process of just allowing these thoughts and feelings to come to the surface, and it's not letting them put us into a state where we feel like we can't deal with this. Rather, we need to find productive ways of working through these emotions. And creativity is really one of the best things that we can do for that. So, if we're artistic in any way, allowing ourselves to express through that, through music,
Right.
So a lot of people do, teenagers, young people find music at this time, and they become very passionate about music, because in a way it helps them to tap into different feelings and emotion and express that through the music. For me, when I was a young person, music was a massive part of my life, and it still is. And for me, it was heavier music. Like, it was metal music, it was progressive rock, it was stuff that really, in a way, wasn't me on the outside, but was so me on the inside. And that kind of music gave me an opportunity to, be in that element and kind of feel validated and heard, because this music was expressing things that I was feeling as well. And still today, there's times where I feel this shadow needs a bit of expression or to hang out. So, for me, putting on that sort of music allows me to go into that in a productive way, not in a way that's going to, spiral me or leave me in a place where I can't get out of those feelings and emotions. Other things that people can do as a productive way of working with the shadow is, some people like thrill seeking things. So it might be, I'm going to jump out of a plane, or I'm going to go bungee jumping, or I'm going to go for a ride on a motorcycle, or whatever
Just
it may
taking
be.
the shadow
In that
for a
way,
jump. Just taking
pushing
the shadow for a
ourselves
jump today.
out of our comfort zone is essentially a way of facing our fears, right? Testing our fears. Are these fears really there, or can I push past these fears? So it can be another really great way of working with the shadow, doing some things that are beyond what you think you can do comfortably, and really pushing yourself. Other things, people like scary movies. So being scared is another thing with working with the shadow, because again, being scared is about the fear. So watching scary movies, or reading books with that sort of theme, or even visiting haunted places and going on ghost tours, or whatever it may be, or just really, I guess, reading about the paranormal and that sort of thing can be another thing that we can do. Some of the destructive ways that people do, I guess, grab onto in this period can be, turning to alcohol, turning to drugs, even self-harm, those sorts of things. A lot of the time, these are used as coping mechanisms to try and deal with what people are going through. And it's more to, I guess, in a way, distract away from what they're feeling and what they're thinking, as opposed to moving through it in a way that helps. And I think what we need as young people is really mentors in our lives that aren't our parents. I think it's really important to have older people who have moved through these processes to help be an example of that. There is that truth in them. There is that process where they've been in the same sort of state, or been vulnerable, for them to really understand on that level what the young people are going through, or what people are feeling in that shadow aspect. So having strong mentors is super important. It could be a teacher, it could be a coach, it could be, someone that's come into your life that really, I guess, is a great example of moving from a heavier space into that lighter space. The idea with the shadow really is to merge it and allow it to be part of you rather than a separate part of you. So we need to get to a point where we're happy to accept the different aspects of ourselves, and we don't have that kind of shame and suppression around it. Rather, as I said before, it's like hanging out with a friend sometimes. Let's spend a day together and do some things that are more in that shadow aspect, so that I can express those feelings and emotions that maybe I don't show all the time. So you can see a difference in someone who has done their shadow work because they're in their truth, and that sort of person is not projecting who they feel they should be and what society wants them to be. Rather, they accept themselves on all levels, their quirkiness, their difference. They embrace that uniqueness. They aren't afraid to express themselves and talk about difficult things. They like to be in truth and uncover truth as well. There's a very different feeling. You come across people who, are that
Indeed.
complete soul. They're comfortable. They're
I
really
don't think Sarah can
content
still hear us, right?
because they're not trying to maintain this facade or keep up this, aspect of self. Rather, they're in a relaxed state because there's nothing to hide. They're in their complete truth. So it's such important work. And I think for parents as well, the best thing they can do is hold the space for their teenagers, hold the space for young people, allow them to be validated in, ways of expressing themselves. Don't see them as getting tattoos and piercings and wanting to have purple hair as like a terrible thing. Really, it's an expression of that shadow, and we need an outlet. And again, if there's shame around that in any way, it's just going to further add to suppression or not feeling as though we're acknowledged or validated. So allow people to have that expression, encourage creativity in young people as well, because it is their way of dealing with emotions, and also give them opportunities to have different experiences. I mean, I'm so fortunate that people seek me out to help work with their teenage kids, because I can validate them in a way that is so different to, say, a doctor or, a psychologist. Really, what it is all about is if we can tap into someone's purpose and their gifts and talents, and we can validate that person on that level and help them to remember exactly who they are, it gives them the path forward. It helps them to start to focus their energy on what they're good at and also where their contribution can be. If we can give them that when they're young, it can really set them up for their life. So purpose in that time is super important, because a lot of the time in the shadow, you feel like there is no purpose and there is no hope and there is no point to things. So it's about coming back into that real core of things, I think, and tapping into that and really giving them that path forward. Everybody has a contribution, a purpose, something that they can be of service in some way to the world, a way to leave the world in a better place. And if we can, tap into that and talk about that with someone, it changes the course or the direction of someone's life. A lot of what we go through, we need to go through because it's part of our purpose. And that's also a big part of understanding this shadow work. We all need to go through it at some point. If we purposely choose not to, so we keep
you'll be forced,
moving away from that work or suppressing it or just trying to distract ourselves away from it, it will come back at some stage. So teenage years is a great time to do it because you're setting yourself up for an easier flow in life. Another time it can happen is around the age of 29. So there is an astrological influence around this time. So it can be a little earlier and it can be a little later, called Saturn return. And this is a process that happens, which is basically letting go of anything that isn't serving you in your life. So, by the age of 29, we're sort of in a career, we're probably in a relationship, there's these things that we're making commitments with. Sometimes these things aren't the right things for us in life. And around this time, these things can start to dissolve in our, get us back on track or to get us into a different path. So yeah, shadow stuff can absolutely come up around this time. And then if it doesn't happen then, it's a 30-year cycle. So it can often happen again around age 60.
Oh my
and
goodness.
It's interesting because a lot of people who around that age, their families have grown up, they're finally at a point where they feel like they can do some things for themselves, but then also all of this stuff starts to come up for them, this kind of regret and all these things that they haven't probably dealt with earlier start to play out in their lives as well. The shadow can come up at any point. So, and as I said, it can be triggered by many different things: health, a relationship breakdown, losing a loved one, going
Just
through
so everyone
trauma,
knows, Sarah
all
can't
sorts
hear
of
us.
things. It's just understanding that it is a normal aspect and a normal process for people to go through, and there shouldn't be any sort of shame in it. It's more about holding that space for that person, and also
Feeling that safety.
trying to help them see that they can come through this the other end by working through it in a, I guess, productive way rather than the self-destructive habits. So yeah,
It's
look,
really a balance.
I feel that the spiritual journey is very much this, and I think a lot of people think the spiritual journey is really just this like, let's get on a unicorn and ride across a rainbow, and let's be all love and light. It's so not that. It's so not that at all. It's really about delving deep and seeing where all of these fears and triggers and emotions come from, and allowing yourself to just acknowledge all of this stuff in a healthy way and being able to express it as well. So, if the spiritual people that you come across are just, that projection of complete love and light, the truth is they're more a projection rather than a truth. You've got to come from a real place and a vulnerability. And I think that's where we all connect. And I think that's why I feel so passionate about helping young people, is because I've been there. I've been in that place. I've had that low confidence, that, low self-worth. I've been that sort of passive person that's been pushed around, I totally get those feelings and emotions and how that can trigger within you. But it's also important to know that we don't have
to amazing.
Stay in state, and we can overcome that and come through.
She just can't hear us.
Can you hear us yet, Sarah? Not sure if it's coming through.
I still can't hear you guys.
Can't hear us.
Okay, you can't.
So we've had issues right at the beginning, but it's been really, really good to get an understanding from Sarah's perspective, because she's been dealing with so many people with the shadow work, as well as guiding a lot of people. And I recall even seeing so many young people going through, and it's helped them a lot. And a lot of people need to go through and balance the things. Needs to balance, right? Because it's just like probably going, what's he talking about? But it's really a balance of the things that happen to you, and it's more like even getting a retrospect of exactly what's happened in the past, and sometimes that stays in the back, and it sort of hinders you from moving forward until you deal with it and realize that you've either accepted something's there or not accepted it. And that's one of the main things from going through the shadow work that people tend to not really go through. A lot of people do go through that. There's there's going to be a lot of different people that help guide people. Like there's different physicians as well as psychologists and other people that can help guide them. But there's so many other people out there, and this is part of that mental health aspect where we sort of need more people out there who are mentors as well as guides, as well as from many different aspects, from business to like from a professional and personal point of view. You need to sort of work on yourself in order to really find that balance. And once you achieve that balance, you feel like you can do nearly almost anything and sort of move forward. So thanks, thanks, Sarah. And she's not going to be able to hear us.
Yeah, the finish can't hear because I wanted to talk a bit about the mental health aspect.
Mental health.
You know, a lot of the spiritual side. That's what we've been piecing. Is like these other tools out there that we can use as part of the mental health banner. You know, that can help us along with finding out who we are.
Yeah. So, what did you want to jump? Did you want to jump into it now? Or?
No, I would have liked to have had a conversation with Sarah, but you know, maybe we'll have to get on again next time.
We'll get on again. Okay. Until next time, guys. We'll end the
Phil.
stream now.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Amy. Yes. Until next time. Bye.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.